says he's offering radical reforms. The opposition says it's just a publicity stunt. Each is holding out for its own brand of democratic change. But many fear the politically volatile Yemen may descend into anarchy. Hashim Harbar, AlJazeera, Sana'a.
An arrest warrant has been issued for Tunisia's former Interior Minister Rafik Belhaj Qassem on charges of murder. That's according to the state news agency. Qassem was Interior Minister during the popular uprising that ousted President Ben Ali in January. He's accused of being complicit in the killings of scores of protesters and has been in police custody since February. People in the United Arab Emirates are calling for a popularly elected parliament. A group of Emirati activists and intellectuals has signed an online petition to President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. His members are calling for free and democratic elections. Hundreds of students in Bahrain are keeping up the pressure on their leadership to make swift democratic reforms. They've been marching to Pearl Roundabout in Manama, the focal point of anti-government demonstrations. They complain of discrimination by Sunni leaders against the majority Shia population. Alassane Ouattara says the African Union has endorsed him as the rightful leader of Côte d'Ivoire. He made the declaration at an African Union summit taking place in Ethiopia. It's the first time Ouattara has left Côte d'Ivoire since the political standoff began. The incumbent, President Laurent Gbagbo, has imposed a no-fly zone, but the UN vowed to ignore the order and continue its flights. Aid agencies have reported that 450,000 people have been displaced by conflict since last year's disputed elections. Well, Côte d'Ivoire's economy is suffering heavily from the deadlock, in particular the country's lucrative cocoa industry. The export of almost 500,000 tonnes of cocoa beans has been held up. Now the country's cocoa board has ordered producers to get back to work. Mohamed Ado has more.
The Côte d'Ivoire's economy largely depends on its cocoa crop. But the farmers who will soon be gathering that precious harvest say they're now victims of the political battle engulfing their country. As the presidential face-off between Laurent Gbagbo and Alassane Ouattara goes on, each is issuing different orders to the farmers, and they're getting fed up.
Life is becoming more and more miserable for us farmers. Both Gbagbo and Ouattara should leave and let someone with a conscience take over the country's leadership.
Cocoa has been his family's main income for more than 30 years.
All the former leaders of the cocoa sector are in jail, and Gbagbo has appointed his own. And now he has nationalized the sector. This is because he knows it's profitable and can get him money.
The ongoing political crisis in Ivory Coast threatens the country's status as being the world's top producer of cocoa. And now farmers are complaining that it's no longer profitable to grow cocoa as illegal cartels take advantage of the situation to take their crop at throwaway prices. Alou Bile is a trader in the small town of Ara in the eastern part of Côte d'Ivoire. He says he hasn't sold any cocoa for the last 2 months.
Every morning farmers come to me for payment. I have no money to pay them. If the situation remains the same, it will be unbearable for us.
European Union sanctions imposed in protest over Gbagbo's refusal to stand down are already strangling the nation's cocoa sector. More than 475,000 tons are stuck in storage. If cocoa production continues to suffer, then not only will farmers face financial ruin, it will soon become a major concern too for chocolate lovers everywhere. Mohamed Ado, AlJazeera, Ara in eastern Côte d'Ivoire.
The Italian Prime Minister has denied that new justice reforms just adopted by his cabinet are linked to his own legal problems. Silvio Berlusconi, who's recovering from jaw surgery, is currently facing trials for corruption, abuse of power and paying for sex with a minor. Under the reforms, judges would have to pay damages when judicial errors are made. They also restrict the powers of prosecutors. Critics say they're aimed at getting revenge on judges who've pursued Berlusconi for decades. Speaking at a news conference, Berlusconi denied any link to the sex scandals surrounding him.
Absolutely zero. We have been planning this since 1994 when we entered politics. I have told young people from Forza Italia that I would never leave politics without first introducing this sort of reform into our judicial system.
The Dalai Lama has announced that he'll be stepping down as political head of the exiled Tibetan movement. He says it's time for a freely elected leader to take over. Elections are due to be held later this month for a new prime minister. The Dalai Lama's decision would give the elected prime minister greater influence as the region seeks autonomy from China.
As early as the 1960s, I have repeatedly stressed that Tibetans need a leader, elected freely by the Tibetan people, to whom I can cede power. Now, we have clearly reached the time to put this into effect.
A memorial service has been held for one of 2 US servicemen killed by an alleged Islamic extremist at Frankfurt Airport last week. It's believed that 21-year-old Zachary Kudabak was shot by a Kosovo Albanian angry at operations in Afghanistan. Senior Airman Nick Alden was also shot dead. Thousands of tons of construction material is on its way to Gaza after sitting on the Israeli border for 3 years. Nicole Johnston reports on why the desperately needed supplies have taken so long to reach Palestinian territory.
Millions of dollars worth of gravel bound for Gaza. This material is desperately needed to rebuild the strip. Instead, it's been stuck on the Israeli side of the border for over 3 years. Ever since Israel imposed its siege on Gaza, construction material has been banned from the strip. But now these trucks are finally being allowed into the Sufa crossing to collect it, more than 70,000 tons of it.
We hope they will keep Sufa crossing open for the future. This quantity will support a lot of frozen projects and create job opportunities for a lot of unemployed workers and contractors. A lot of projects will start.
It's enough gravel to complete around 40 UN projects. But despite Israel's so-called easing of the siege, it's only agreed to allow supplies for 11% of the projects the UN has put forward. However, this week Israel did approve 2 new building projects worth over $100 million for houses in the southern city of Rafah.
The people who own these projects, their houses had been destroyed since 2002. And they are all the time, they are in rented places. We paid millions of dollars, as rent for those people.
So at last, the gravel rolls into Gaza, and a number of UN projects will finally begin. But for the private sector, cement and stones are still banned by Israel. In their case, the only option is to smuggle in supplies or once again use recycled stone. Nicole Johnston, AlJazeera at Sufa Crossing.
This is AlJazeera. These are the stories making the headlines. The son of Libya's leader has warned opposition fighters that the time has come for a full-scale military assault. In a televised address, Saif al-Islam also warned foreign powers not to interfere in his country's affairs.
And the Libyan people, they will never ever welcome the NATO. We will never ever welcome the Americans here. If they want to support the militia, do it. But I will tell you from now, you're going to lose. We will win. And we're not afraid of the American fleet,